future. The importance of democracy and democratic ideals, as well as promoting human dignity, freedom, and solidarity. It is more than possible to improve the safety of our communities. We are a small community. It is more than impossible to improve our own safety. We require well-designed, technically sound, data-driven, and evidence-based policies that target the root causes of crime and violence. These can have a major impact in reducing crime indicators. Through collaboration between state authorities, civil society organizations, and the private sector, it is possible to reduce the fear of crime and crime itself, ensure respect of human rights, and promote social cohesion and holistic social and human development. Peace, justice, and security are vital to social development and human progress. We must be committed to the promotion of peaceful societies, access to justice for all, and improving security conditions, which also means and addressing the critical needs of marginalized and vulnerable people. In order to create lasting peace, we need to ensure participation of all stakeholders, particularly women and youth. We all have a legitimate and pivotal role to play, especially in defining the strategies and goals that should be pursued as to how to achieve longer-term sustainability. In the words of Nelson Mandela, it is so easy to break down and destroy. The heroes are those who make peace and build. Peace is the greatest weapon for development that any person can have. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is the creation of the environment where we all can flourish regardless of race, color, creed, religion, gender, class, or any other social markers of difference. Let us then move forward to creating a culture of peace and a culture of love in our Bahamas. We can do it, and we can end it now. Thank you.
Pleasant good afternoon to you. I thank you very much for inviting the Bahamas Crisis Center to be a part of this event. We are very pleased to be here. We wish to congratulate the Seventh-day Adventist Women's Ministry, for this initiative to bring the awareness to this scourge of domestic violence. Their statement today is end it now, and please, not only just today, but we must continue to say end it now until it is ended. We can all agree that it is just too much violence in our community. Just about the headlines are screaming at us, telling us another story, one after another. Our world has changed. It's not safe anymore. Home is not a safe place anymore for women and girls. The numbers were high before COVID, the pandemic, but during and after, the numbers are even more staggering. Women and girls are subjected every day to domestic and sexual violence. Their stories are heartbreaking, painful, and devastating. We cannot stand idly by. We cannot do nothing. We must say and act. The stories are so painful. Last week, I was told about a story of her grandmother who was savagely beaten and raped. And guess what? Her funeral is not too far away. So that is the type of violence that women and girls are subjected to in our community. But we must join our voices and join us against this violence. Do you realize that this is a worldwide problem? Yes, it is. It is reported that 1 in every 3 women worldwide experience physical or sexual violence, either by a stranger or intimate partners. Do you realize that this violence is a violation of their human rights, our human rights? And do you realize that the effect of the violence is devastating and sometimes leads to death? Do you realize that the violence prevents women and girls from achieving their full potential? This violence affects the family, the community, and our country at large. Women and girls have a right to live a life free from violence. The stories of abuse, physical and sexual, are many. And as I said only a moment ago, heartbreaking and painful. So you see, it's a major problem in our community. It's a major problem. And I am suggesting and recommending to you that while it is a major problem, there are solutions. And we all have a role to play in ending this violence. It's not just the church, it's not the crisis center, it's not the police, it's not the government. We all have a role to play in ending the violence. We must protect victims by enforcing the laws that are in place to protect women and girls. And those laws must be enforced to the fullest extent of the law. Churches, NGOs, civic organizations must partner with government to prevent violence. For example, early education, training, early intervention. Education is important. We must learn about domestic violence. We want to know about the subject. We want to be able to talk about the subject. We want to be able to share with our friends and families about the topic of domestic violence. We must create awareness through the daily media, the newspapers, the TV, the social media. We must all do our part to spread the information. We must provide essential services like shelter. Oh, shelter. This is a massive problem. Where do women and children go when they are put out at 2 a.m. in the morning? Where do they go? You can't stay in the police station. Social services doesn't have a home. You can't go to a hotel. You're not working. You don't have the money. What do they do to escape violence? And so we must provide and assist with adequate legal services. I don't have the time to tell you what a problem this is. Obtaining legal services, it's not an easy thing. Who has the money? Who all have the money? We don't all have that money to employ a lawyer to represent us. And approaching the court is not always an easy exercise. We must have access to easy justice. It must be easier. We must learn, as I said, about this issue. We must tell our friends and family what do they do and who do they call in times of these when they are trying to escape the abuse, physical or sexual. We must, as a country, and one of my colleagues has already mentioned, gather data so we can get a better understanding of the nature and magnitude and consequences of violence against women and girls. And as I said, we all have a role to play. This is a problem with a solution. So let's work on it. Let's see what we can do. Let our voices be heard. We want a future without violence against women and girls. We want a country where men and women are equal and live and would be free from violence. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust I have brought a message this afternoon. And the message is, let us end violence, not yesterday, not next year, but let's end violence now. Thank you very much.
A pleasant good evening. How y'all doing? Now I need to hear y'all out here. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I can't hear you. Listen, I know y'all been sitting some time now, right? And I'm Inspector Kendra Wims. I'm attached to the Domestic Violence Unit Task Force. This unit was established this year, July 5th, 2022, by the incoming commissioner, Mr. Clayton Fernando. You can clap here. Let's clap it forward. Don't you think this unit is timely? Don't you think it's about time? Don't you really think it's about time this unit was established? Let me tell you why this unit was established. It was established because for victims of various crimes, they can report their matters in a safe place. Safe space where they are not ridiculed for any reason, whether it's in relation to gender, their status in society, or who they are. I want to take you down memory lane. I was attached to the Criminal Investigation Department for 17 years, where I worked in homicide. My role was assisting families, victims of crime who was murdered. Victims who were sexually molested. Persons who ran away from home for various reasons. The police force makes up a fragment of what needs to happen in this country today. The domestic violence unit is not just a police force. It's a collaboration between the churches, the NGOs group, civilians, doctors, Ministry of Education, and persons of all walks of life. How you think matters are solved when matters are reported to the police? It is the civilians who provide the information, which makes you all very important, not only in this fight to eradicate domestic violence, but to hold hands, unite as one, and let's get the job done. We can march today, we can march tomorrow, we can march until next year. But if we don't have a purpose of what we exactly trying to achieve, we will be marching again next year. And nothing will change. remember a case, a very sad case, where a mother was abused for years by her husband. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. In the presence of her children, it became a norm. Mama said, well, it's only a slap. Grammy always said, a slap never hurt me. Girl, don't leave your home. You don't want to give up your property. Then the abuse increased from verbal, physical, and sometimes, unfortunately, it leads to death. Statistics have shown that victims leave up to 10 times. Right, Miss Christie? Before they really leave, right, ma'am? That's if they make it to the 10th time. They have so many to consider. The children. Oh, I don't have a job. How my children is going to eat? Where am I going to go? Lack of homes. No safe houses. You run to the police. The police only can do so much to help you. The matter will be investigated, but guess what, y'all? The victim turns right around and goes right back home. Then abuse happens again and again and again and again. And it goes on and on until it completely out of control. There was a 12-year-old child just lately. Her father abused her mother all her life, what she could remember. Mama decided to walk away and leave, this time for good. The child was upset. She said, no, Mama, it's not Daddy's fault. It's your fault for leaving. That child took a handful of pills one night. She consumed it all. It's a good thing somebody came in the room and saw her. The police was contacted. She was taken to the hospital. They were able to revive her.